many of the issues that were of significance to the country. He studied law as an overseas student, and when he passed his final exams in 1949, he was the first person in the entire Caribbean to get a bachelor's degree by correspondence. Today,
This break the transmission, but as we are back and we welcome you, as we've been updating you, promising you, we have also been sharing with our listeners, our friends, everyone out there, that our regular Barbuda Council, Chairman of Barbuda Council update back with you for today, Thursday. And what a day to have our Chairman of the Barbuda Council and the chairlady of the Agriculture, Lands and Forestry in studio on what we call a resumption of this program. Let me say great evening to both of you and welcome to Abundant Life Media.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, viewers and listeners out there. Definitely it's a pleasure to be back in the studio.
Great to have you back. And so we will be, as you know how this program goes, for those who are just listening us or join us for the first time, we give the chairman of the Barbuda Council an opportunity to give us some updates, share with you. And one of the things he promised us is the opportunity to come and share with you, our listeners. Yes, we can do this in forums, but in this we can touch Barbudans who are in the diaspora, Barbudans all over, and folks can connect. And you can stay in your homes, and we are bringing this to you live here on the Barbuda channel. So at this time, we're going to go right over to the chairman of Barbuda Council, none other than our good friend, brother, John Massington.
Thank you, Evangelist. And as I said, it's a pleasure to be here once again. And essentially, we are continuing this information exchange with regards to letting our clientele out there, which is the general public, understand and know what is going on with the Barbuda Council. Now, I have a number of things to update generally on, but we're not going to have the time to go through every single detail, so I'll be quick with it in terms of where we are. Now, this time of the year, it has been a very wet December, and one of the things that we can highlight from the point of view of Barbuda Council is that we have just recently completed the first leg of the road upgrade program that we have started. You would have noticed that the concrete road that was started from the middle of the village and ending at the gas station, that is Barbuda Council's initiative, and I want to emphasize that because we've been hearing reports on other news media where certain central government authorities are essentially claiming that that work was being done. So one of the things I want to clarify tonight was that that initiative was started, funded, executed by the Barbuda Council. We saw the need and we made sure that we pooled the resources. That was one of the promises we made when we were on the last election campaign trail. And so I'm happy to say that we have completed that leg. The road was recently open at the gas station end, and we are all grateful that that part of it is complete. What is left to be done now would be the verges of the road, the sides, in terms of getting those, the material to basically beautify, compact, and green again. At this time of year, I'm sure everybody would appreciate how it is in terms of navigating that road into the village. You can imagine, for example, last year, how it was in terms of the muck and the potholes and all that. And it's very good now to be able to drive from the gas station right into the village on smooth, crisp, clean roads. So that's one of the updates. We're going to have an opening ceremony at some point in time where we will officially bring that part of the road program to an end, and hopefully the coming year we will start the additional roads. Remember, I was here the last time and I outlined that there were 4 extensions that we were going to be doing, and that is complements of a loan from the Caribbean Development Bank executed by the project implementation unit from the Ministry of Works. And those 4 roads will be to continue from where the concrete leaves off at the river area, coming to meet where the council ends at the gas station. Another extension will be from the center, James Corner, they say, down the middle of the village, past the admin building to the lagoon, and then finally from where the council leave off all the way up to the power station, 2-foot Bay Road and beyond. And then there's one leading from the secondary school to meet those at the corner by the baker shop there. So those are the proposed works that hopefully will start first quarter 2026, and that's a joint effort funded by the Caribbean Development Bank and executed by the Ministry of Works, Ministry of Finance, and the Barbuda Council. I also want to update you with regards to the legal challenges that the council have been mounting on behalf of the people of Barbuda and on behalf of our defense for the land system that we operate here. Now, you would have known that the Cedar Tree Point development that was purported to be building residences for the royal family, which we know that is not true. That matter was taken before the court, and George Jeffrey was the lead Barbudan in terms of that, and Global Legal Action Network was providing assistance in terms of that challenge. There was a hearing in June, and right now we are waiting for the judge's decision on that matter. And essentially that challenge was to have a review of whether or not laws were broken in executing that particular harmful development, which is in the heart of the frigate bird sanctuary zone, a protected area. The other challenge that I need to bring you up to date with is the Kettle Hill matter. You would have remembered that a year ago, January, we had a situation where the riot squad was sent to Barbuda when Barbudans found out that lands were being cleared up at Katy Hill, that those lands were ancestral, people's ancestral farms, or the areas that they use on a daily basis from time immemorial. And so the council mounted a challenge against that particular matter that has been happening there. They applied for an injunction to halt all operations with regards to what is going on there in terms of clearing and unauthorized bulldozing of the area. Now, as a result of that application for an injunction, one of the respondents are the Attorney General, Mr. Abijah Thomas, and the Barbuda Ocean Club. One of those respondents, the Barbuda Ocean Club, put in a motion for dismissal, because what they were saying is that they were not involved and they don't know the other person doesn't work for them, is not associated with them in any way, and a motion was put in to be dismissed from the action. That matter was heard recently, and the judges dismissed their motion request for being taken out of the action. So what the judges said, no, if you have evidence that you are not associated, come to the trial and bring forward that evidence. So that motion that they had put in was dismissed and they were ordered to pay cost. So the court challenge will continue and they will be forced to present their evidence for or against in terms of that challenge. The final thing that I want to update you with is that tomorrow, Friday, there is going to be a hearing in the High Court of Antigua, and that is in relation to the land adjudication matter. You would remember that 2024 in May, the central government administration declared that the entire island of Barbuda would be an adjudication section, and lands will be adjudicated as to whether or not they are owned or not owned. The Barbuda Council said no, that is going to create problems in terms of our land system, so we took them to court. And so tomorrow there will be a hearing between the parties to determine the dates and other matters as to how that case is going to move forward. But in the meantime, that adjudication process, no, we're having none of that. It's threatening to eliminate our communal land system, and as Barbudans, we're saying, no, you just cannot come and disenfranchise persons like that in terms of property. So that matter is now firmly before the court. So those are the updates I would wish to disclose at this point with regards to the legal challenges. There are many other challenges. The airport matter continues. In fact, that has reached a stage where finally we were able to see the environmental impact assessment, and the respondents in the matter decided that they wanted to question an expert witness that we had hired to assess that environmental impact assessment. So they requested from the court that they be given the opportunity to question our witness. We had a hearing a couple weeks ago, and certain dates were set down in terms of them presenting their questions. We will get an opportunity to respond, and then there will be a hearing on January 13th with respect to that matter. So generally, we are continuing to challenge and stand up for the mandate that we have been given in the last several elections, which is to protect the interests of Barbudans and Barbuda, and to ensure that the Barbuda Council remains as the local government as defined in the 1976 Act, which is entrenched in the Constitution of Antigua and Barbuda, giving the Barbuda Council the overall responsibility to administer the island of Barbuda. So those are the updates, and this session I'm happy to have with me the Chair of Agriculture, Lands and Forestry, Miss Jackie Frank, and she'll be taking the baton now with regards to bringing you updated with a lot of the progress that we have made in agriculture and land management and forestry here in Barbuda.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here to shed some light and share information with regards to what's taking place in the Lands Department. There's quite a list of things, so I'll cover as much as I can, and if there are any questions later, I will try my best to answer them. So the first thing that I looked into when I went into the Lands Department in April was the certificates, because lots of people are concerned that their certificates are not ready or they're not being distributed. Now, I have to say that there have been issues in terms of getting the certificates completed, and before we handed them out, we wanted to make sure they were accurate. But as time has gone by, we are better able to find people's certificates and begin the distribution. So if it is that you're waiting for a certificate, I would say contact the Lands Department, go into the Lands Department and ask what's happening, because we will be able to tell you. And if it is that your certificate's been misplaced or is incomplete, then that will be an opportunity for you to ask for it to be completed, and perhaps ask for a date by which you expect to be able to receive your certificate, because I do agree that the process is taking a lot longer than was anticipated by anybody. Secondly, there are some pieces of land that have been disputed by members of families, and the situation has been carried to the High Court. What happened in the court with some of these cases is the court recognises that the Barbuda Council is responsible for the land in Barbuda, and they send the people back to the council to have it decided. So if that is the case, again, we will try and work with the family to resolve the situation, but it won't be done arbitrarily. There will be some legal requirements of the family to decide where or who should receive the land. If there's a will, we're going to abide by the will. If there's anything else, we may ask you to provide some other legal evidence. But the bottom line is, if it's been sent back to us by the court to recognise our power and our responsibility as responsible for the land in our communal land system, we will do the best that we can to deal with them. Another issue that has arisen increasingly over time since I've been in post is an increasing number of Barbudans going into deals with non-Barbudans over lands. Now, even when it's a deal between a Barbudan and another Barbudan, there are still issues. So we ask that anybody involved in thinking they're acquiring a piece of land, to work with and through the council, please. Lands are not sold in Barbuda. We've never sold land. That's our philosophy, is communal land that belongs to everybody. Therefore, if you want a piece of land and you are non-Barbudan, please come to the council, because we have the capacity and the willingness to draft a lease where you can have some level of, I don't want to say ownership, but some level of right to occupy a piece of land so that you can do what you need to do without feeling left out. We're not going to change our land system and say non-Barbudans can have the right to occupy in the same way as a Barbudan, but we will try and accommodate you. So this is a reminder, Barbudans, if you enter into an agreement with a non-Barbudan, please come and work with the council to do it in the first place, and that way everybody is protected. And we are willing and able to help you have the right to occupy. We don't want to shut anyone out. We see that as a way of moving forward, and it's not a new step. It has always been it was in the Barbuda Land Act 2007. It was there. The provision was made. So please come and work with the Barbuda Council. And we are aware that there are issues for some people in terms of the right to occupy land, especially Barbudans, and the council are willing now to consider helping you to, once you have been allocated a piece of land, to mark it as your own, whether it be providing you with materials at cost without the ABST, if it's possible, so that you as a young person or a young business person, so that you can get your foot on the ladder and start to do what you want to do. We are considering how we can help, and one of the ways that we've thought about is to try and provide materials at cost for you, because council is able to purchase without the duty. So that's the land situation currently. In agriculture, there's been a lot of movement in terms of the growing of crops. Highland has been reopened and revitalised. The team has worked really hard in terms of clearing the site and putting down a fence, and they are now producing watermelon and corn, and there are some experimental crops being tried as well, but we've had several crops of watermelon and corn being sold at the Lands Office. Now we realise that the Lands Office isn't the best place, so there is a plan to create a market, actual market stalls, for not just for council crops, but for any farmers who have produce that they want to sell, whether it be eggs or the meat from hens, pigs or goats. So that in the long term, that is the part of the capital development plan for the Barbuda Council. We do have challenges in the production of crops though, and one of the biggest ones is water, in terms of accessing water. So earlier this year, the Lands Department, members of the Lands Department, met with two organisations who are helping us to secure funding so that we can meet the challenges of having enough water to produce crops year round. Because right now this is the rainy season, and so the crops are doing quite well with little intervention from our farmers, our council farmers. But as the year goes on, it will become hotter. So we went and we investigated the dam that was built, and the faults were assessed, and they considered how much it would cost to either repair or build new, so that we could have our own water storage system not too far from Highland, and in a position that the water can be pumped and run down to Highland so that the crops can be watered. Currently we're using 2 huge black tanks and having them installed so that the water from those can be used, but in the long term we're planning a bigger water storage facility that will provide the opportunity to have year-round crops growing. We're also aware of more and more people wanting to get into farming with animals. We already have I think a very good supply of chickens and eggs, but there are also people with pigs and goat and sheep. And recently we had a visit from a member of IECA and some of the vets that work for the ministry, and they came to inspect the provision that's made for the pigs that people keep here, because there has been cases of Asian swine flu in the Dominican Republic, not here, but they are helping us to monitor and protect the pigs from contracting those diseases. So they talked with the pig farmers and have been helping them to develop their practice, not that it's bad practice, but just to take it further to ensure that they are safe and that their animals are safe. And they have also said that there may be funds available to help us move towards having an abattoir where we can have slaughtering of animals and processing of the meats and the refrigeration packaging that goes with it. And at the moment it is talk, but they're hoping to work with us because we are part of a pilot scheme that they're talking about. The coconut plantation finally has coconuts in it. There have been issues in terms of getting it ready and having the coconuts in, and one of those issues is theft. There have been people or a person come into where they were stored down at the Lands Office and actually going into the plantation and stealing the coconuts from in the ground. So we would ask that everyone is vigilant, because if you're stealing from the plantation, you're stealing from all of us. You're stealing from all of Barbuda, and that's not going to help us move forward and become secure in our food provision for ourselves, because ultimately we do need to develop our food security. Because if you consider what you buy in the shop, any shop, the majority of it, 90+% comes from overseas. It's bought in. We, as a small island, need to become more food secure, and that is what the Lands and Agricultural Department is trying to do with the crops provision and working with the meat providers as well. So it's everyone's responsibility and to everyone's benefit to, if it don't belong to you, leave it alone. And if you see anyone taking it, tell them stop or report them. That's the only way we're going to fight it. So we need to look out for ourselves. If you see something, say something. That's important. And finally, talking about land, going back to land again, one of the things that I've noticed, because I've only been back maybe coming up to 10 years now, is how much water there is around the village. And I think part of the reason for that is that when people are allocated the lands, they're clearing everything off of the land. Instead of leaving things that could soak up the water or drink the water, everything is being cleared. So when you're allocated your piece of land, please bear in mind how you want to clear it or prepare it, and do you really need to push down everything that's on the land? Leave things that you know will soak up the water. A particularly wet place is down Bumpy Well Road area. Now that area had already been chosen to be broken down into plots to allocate to people when they come to the lands department. So the clearing had started, but sadly the person in charge of that mostly was Mr. Punter, Shay. So since his passing, we're trying to find a way to reinvigorate that allocation within that area again. So that has slowed down, but we are aware that people are wanting pieces of land, and that was the area that we've chosen. So please be patient in terms of being allocated. Don't give up. Keep coming in and asking about it, but be patient at the same time. And the final thing might involve see something, say something, is our plant protection officers are now stationed down at the river dock, and they're using the security booth that was active during Caravana, so they have somewhere to be out of the sun and out of the rain. So they are now on duty looking at who brings what on the boats with regards to plants, because we're an island, we have to protect what's here from any kinds of diseases or that could be brought in, because once they take hold, then that's could be us finished, especially with the palms and the coconut palms. So our plant protection officers are on duty down there on a regular basis, and they will report anything that's out of the ordinary, and will have to deal with people, which could possibly result in your plants that you bring in being burnt for the safety of the whole island. So please bear in mind what you bring in, and that's it.
Wow.
Now.
Okay. I'm telling you. Just want to remind our listeners, if you have just joined us, we are here with the chairman of the Barbuda Council, Mr. John Mussington, also the chair lady of the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Forestry. And you have just received some great update there. What I want you to do, my helper is just going to put up the numbers, because one of the things they're here for, not just to give update, but also to take questions from you. So this is how we're going to be doing it. You can leave your questions in the comments on this live. We are live on the YouTube, which is Barbuda channel YouTube, that is live at this time, and also the Facebook Barbuda channel. So leave the question in the comments, or if you want to be very private, what you can do is there's the number 268-775-1031. That's right there. You can send us a WhatsApp message. If you so feel that, hey, I want to talk to them, that same number you can call, and we will carry it live, and they will hear your questions live. And now with all the technology, you can send a WhatsApp, and we want to be able to interact, and that's the reason for this program. But normally I will share, and I want to jump into something before I get into Mr. Mussington and some other things, because the last time you were here, Mr. Mussington, a lot of the questions were coming in regards to applying for lands in Barbuda, and folks are not realizing that the lands, when you apply, you have to be waiting so long. And I know a lot of folks were very much concerned. Some folks say, I journey from the States, come down here to get my land. Then you're told, wait, you're told this. And you just give an answer there. So, for those who have, would you say that you have a lot of applications of Barbudans? This is for your very Barbudans here, seeking lands here in Barbuda. Have you seen a lot of application coming in?
Well, to tell you point blank, there are at least 2 years files of application backlog. And that's on top of what we're getting presently. Because remember, wow, we started this process in terms of issuing certificates and so on in 2023. All right? And so that backlog plus what's coming in, and given the challenges that we have and the threats that we have been having to fight off in the court, many persons are motivated to come and state their claim and so on. The good news is that we have been processing land. Persons have been getting. It's not fast enough as far as persons are concerned. We have had issues in the past with regard to equipment, because we just don't give out land willy-nilly. The area has to be subdivided, as Ms. Frank said, the Bumpy Well area. Yeah. That has been subdivided in terms of the major roads being put in, and what needs to come now is that the actual allocation lots are worked out in terms of the major roads, and there's where we are. And one of the main reasons we mobilized that area was to deal with the backlog of applications that we do have. So there's a lot of applications, but at the same time we are processing, persons are getting through, but it's not everybody tomorrow is going to end up with a plot of land. We have to understand that there's a process, and we have to get the area prepared and so on. So do not give up. We're fighting on every end. We're fighting in the court to make sure that as Barbudans we continue to enjoy the rights and privileges of our system. That's a full-time effort there. And at the same time, we're making sure we have the equipment and the personnel to continue the process in terms of securing your lands.
Okay. You mentioned something, and I'm going to, not to Mr. Mussington is it, but you can, you mentioned about the process of like two Barbudans want to, let's say, let me just use both of you, have access to the land. But Mr. Mussington does decide I want to, maybe, you know, you ask him based on something, he want to give you a piece of land that he have on Bumpy Well Road. How should we go about, or our Barbudans go about that process if they want to? They're not related, you know, your friends, you just realize they want to. How should we go about? How should they go about that process?
I think they need to first agree amongst themselves what it is they want to do and be clear. Not that there have been some cases where this person had said that person can have a piece of land. A little further down the road, they fall out. And so they come to council and expect council to resolve it. When you decide that you're prepared to give a neighbour, a friend, a cousin, Barbudan a piece of land, please come and ask to speak to somebody in the lands office. Now, it might be that you'd be seen straight away, but it would make more sense that you get to see the land of the senior land secretary in the office, and also speak to Mr. Mussington or myself. But it's not going to be a there and then decision. It's going to be something we sit down and we discuss, because if we make a decision in haste, you have years and years to regret it. So firstly, be sure of what you want, and it's not something you're going to fall out with this person over and then come and expect, because that happens often. Expect council to sort it out when you've already made some kind of agreement. Maybe even money's passed hands. That shouldn't be happening. Come and speak to
and that's what
council.
we want to. That's what we want to look at a bit. So, so now, somebody who's in, and we cannot run from the fact that we have a lot of persons who not Barbudans are not eligible to get, as you said, land, as you said, comes to Barbuda. So I come to Barbuda. I've been here for the last 4 years, but I'm going to use Mr. Mussington. But John, do just decide, boy, if you come across something. If Mr. Mussington, I know folks will not think that he will do anything under the table. If Mr. Mussington want to give me, or want to share, also, I want you, because it's a different process now than to Barbudans. What's the person is not a Barbudan? How would you advise, and how should they go about that, if there shouldn't be any kind of distribution?
Let me put it this way. And when you're dealing with land is a serious business venture you're talking about. And it always reverts to the law and the rights that you have as a citizen to enjoy that land. Now, if the main thing you need to understand is that it's the Barbuda Council only which is authorized to carry out transactions in land. So if you as the ordinary citizen enter into some deal, that's not a legal agreement. It will never stand up in court. And should anything go wrong, then either side will be left holding the bag with nothing, and there's no recourse. So by allowing the administration which is authorized to deal with land, you have a legal document there that can sustain you in terms of any eventuality. And in these transactions today, word of mouth, your friend might have something, then there's a falling out and you get burned. Where are you going to go? Because you can't go to court. You don't have anything which tells you that there was a legitimate transaction that took place.
So the legitimate transaction should go through the
Barbuda Council. Only the council can authorize such transactions. So different examples of that. Let's say you own a piece of land. You've been allocated a piece of land, and somewhere down the road you want to let your son have that. Okay? You just can't say word of mouth, son, this is yours now. Because anything can happen after that. What you do, you come into the Barbuda Council, and the registration which is there in your name, you ask us officially, look, I want to give this piece, allocate this piece to my son. the council will make whatever adjustment in the registry, and that certificate will be adjusted with the name of the person who you are allocating it to. If you don't do it that way, can be a confusion after.
Okay. In regards to this certificate, so if a person now want the certificate, what will this certificate prove, and what can they do with it? Just explain.
First of all, that is your piece of paper that says that you legitimately have rights to the land that you are occupying or using. It's a certificate of allocation. The Barbuda Council, under the Local Government Act, is responsible for administering certain areas of the overall administration for Barbuda, and one of those functions is to allocate lands for the use of residents, Barbudans. Okay, so that certificate basically authorizes you to occupy and utilize the land, and there are several levels to that. As a Barbudan, you can be allocated residential land, and this is very important. Once a residential allocation has been made, that is yours. It remains yours and in your family. It's inheritable. So when you pass on, it does not go back to the Barbuda Council. It goes to your estate and whoever takes over your estate. That is very important, because land is power. Land is something that's very important, and in a family, and you have been allocated that, it remains as part of your estate. Now, there are other allocations that can be made, for example, for farming, for commercial purposes and business and stuff like that. Those are not as permanent as the residential allocation. So, for example, for farming, that will take the form of more or less like a lease. As long as you are utilizing the area, fine.
Okay,
if you
right.
you stop using the area, then that land can go back into the pool for someone else to use in the future.
Let me just ask this question. That's coming. Once again, let's invite our viewers. You can, the number is right there on the screen, 268-775-1031. And as you know, questions start rolling in. Okay. Persons who are non-Barbudans, who don't have any ties whatsoever to Barbuda, they have personal houses built here in Barbuda on lands allegedly belonging to them. How will the council deal with situations like that?
That's one of the things that we're alerting people to, because anyone in that particular situation, you are in an illegality. You have nothing to fall back on. So the way we intend to deal with that is to regularize the situation by issuing a formal lease arrangement with the person.
But what I'm trying to understand from the question, so they said non-Barbudans, and they put up, so how a house get there if they don't?
Illegality.
Illegality,
Yes.
right. So you're saying to them,
your best bet is to try to regularize the situation, because you have nothing to stand on. You may think that you have a house and a land, sitting on land that belongs to you. No, you have no claim to that. Okay? So you're in a very precarious situation, and our advice as Barbuda Council is that you need to regularize that with the council.
okay. In regards to, let us go back while I'm trying to clarify another question there. In your update, you give us the situation with the roads. So the roads is now finished to the airport, not the airport, to the gas station.
The gas station, yes.
Right. What phase 2? Do you have a timeline when that phase is we're gonna have that phase going?
Yes, we have been working with the Caribbean Development Bank, and the past couple months there have been persons on the ground. There is a company, FDL, which was contracted to do the consultancy for the roadworks. They will then hire persons to actually do the actual construction companies. So that initial stage has passed. They have mapped out the areas that need to be handled. They are presently writing up the project with regards to costing and so on. And shortly, the first quarter of next year, they'll be putting out a call for contractors to actually do the physical roadworks. We're hoping, because we're dealing with Caribbean Development Bank, and Caribbean Development Bank is an international regional agency, they have to ensure that bids can come not only from Barbuda but within the jurisdiction that they operate. We are trying to encourage our local contractors to get the capacity so that they will be able to bid successfully. Because, you know, the roads that are being built presently is a local contractor, and we would hope that that contractor and any other Barbudan contractor gets the opportunity to do that road work. So first quarter next 2026 is when we are anticipating that the physical work will begin.
And question also coming up, with all the legal cases the Barbuda Council have to do, somebody was concerned about the adjudication case. If you can explain what is that all about? And
okay. Yes, that needs explanation. Now, let me make it simple as possible. We run a communal land system whereby, according to the Barbuda Land Act, all lands in Barbuda is owned in common by the people of Barbuda. Even though that piece of legislation was repealed, you still have the Barbuda Local Government Act of 1976, which is entrenched in the Constitution, which means that only Barbuda Council and Barbudans can agree to any changes to that act. So that cannot be repealed. The Barbuda Council has responsibility in terms of lands, forestry, and that sort of thing, agriculture, which gives them the right to allocate lands. Now, what has happened is that from time immemorial, the lands in Barbuda were never considered to be the same as the lands in Antigua. They're two separate islands. And in fact, in the early 70s, when land adjudication was taking place in Antigua, it never came to Barbuda because it was recognized that they're two completely different systems. Land in Antigua, for example, is governed by the Land Registration Act, Cap 274, if I am recalling correctly. And that outlines how land is to be registered, how land is to be managed, how certificates are to be issued, and so on. That Land Registration Act does not apply to Barbuda up until 2023. And this is what happened. The central government administration took a decision to go to Parliament, use its majority in Parliament, and change the Land Registration Act to say that in the case of Barbuda, Barbuda lands are now the same as Antigua lands. Now, as Barbudans, do you recall in 2023 anybody ever asking you if you will agree to allow your land to be the same as land in Antigua? There was never any consultation, there was never any notification, nothing. And so that was the first step, because they could not do anything with Barbuda lands until that law was changed. So the law was changed behind the scenes in 2023. You will notice in 2024 now, having declared that Barbuda now falls under the Land Registration Act, they instituted this adjudication process because the Act makes provision for land adjudication to happen. So in May of 2024, they declared that, look, land now in Barbuda will be managed like land in Antigua, and we're going to have a land adjudication process. What that says now is that it's assumed that people have claim for lands. You don't really own it until a judge, that's what adjudication means, comes and determine whether or not your claim is true or not. So by declaring the process started, an adjudicator was chosen and appointed, Sir Claire Roberts, and that the function of that person was to come to Barbuda, and you now as a landholder will have to have documentation to support your claim that where your house is, where your ground is, wherever is actually yours. And a date was set to say that by this date, all claims must be in, and this one judge now will look at it and say, okay, I think that that claim is true, so okay, we'll give you a certificate with that. Oh, I don't think that is true, so you're not getting that. How can we tolerate that that process is fair to us? In the first instance, many Barbudans do not have a piece of paper saying anything, because the communal land system is a paperless system. This paperless system does not make it illegitimate. And in fact, the United Nations, with regards to land rights and indigenous rights and so on, recognize that land systems do not have to be paper-based. The paper-based thing started in 1492, when there was this gentleman that got lost and claims that he discovered the west of India. He was lost. And that is when that paper system came into being. So how can people be living and existing for thousands of years? All of a sudden, you now decide that the only way your system is going to be legitimate based on paper is because starting with that lost colonialism and so on? No. The world does not, the United Nations does not recognize that as being valid. So Barbudans have decided that no, we will not be taking part in that unfair and that unjust adjudication process. It's against us with regards to our constitutional rights. One of the fundamental rights in the Constitution is that you cannot be deprived of property. Land is property, the enjoyment of the property. So that is the basis on which we have challenged that claim.
Okay. So somebody just asked a question about would there ever be an end, and what do you think, and maybe both of you can come in here, when, as I said, because, and the person like says sometimes they're confused because you're hearing one thing here, they're young, they don't understand a lot of terms, they're hearing the next thing here. When what do you think need to be done? And is there any way we'll ever reach to a place to say this is what it is? I don't know if I understand the person.
I understand perfectly what he's saying.
So you can
I don't know if Ms. Frank, I let her answer because I have an answer for that.
Okay.
My understanding is it, for me, depends on the political party in power, because the issues, I'm not aware that the issues that are rising now were present when it was the UPP in power. It appeared that they tended to work more with the Barbuda Council and acknowledge their rights and the belief of the rights that we had, and the challenge wasn't continually to try and remove our communal land rights. So I think it is possible for the two islands to coexist with the different land systems, because it's happened already.
Yeah. My take on that, right? And the person is asking, when will this ever end? And I'll answer this way. We have a system, and that system is legitimate, and that system gives us rights. The problem comes where certain individuals who would wish to huff, as they say colloquially, what we have, and finding all sorts of excuses to say that what we have is not legitimate, which is not true. We rest on the law and legitimacy in terms of our land system, and this will stop when you have covetous persons cease and desist from trying to take what other people have. That's the only way it will stop. And if it means that there are certain administrations which are bent on doing things like that, then when those administrations no longer exist, then we will have peace and thing finally. If not, we will go the ultimate route, because we will not stop defending our rights. And even if it means that we go the process of self-determination to finally bring an end to all that, then that is what we will do.
And payment for those court cases, is that the Barbuda Council? And somebody wanted the explanation. You've been speaking about GLAN, I think it's GLAN.
Yes.
That's the word, as I said. Can you explain who are these?
Okay. GLAN, there is a website, globallegalactionnetwork.com. If you do a Google search or any of your search engines, GLAN, G-L-A-N, you will find that this is an international organization of lawyers and persons who are affiliated with the law, and it's global. And what they do is to fight cases in terms of justice for various persons. Recently, they've actually fought the case of the Palestinians. They actually fought a case as well with some young people in terms of making a claim against the developed countries for climate justice and won that case and so on. So it's an international organization that look about rights of people and to assist persons to gain justice who may not necessarily have the resources to do so. They do have a international fundraising process, a GoFundMe account set up, and throughout our 7-8 years in terms of the legal fights in Barbuda, they have been supporting us, and that's how we are able to do so. And you need to understand that as well, that this international funding means that everybody globally can contribute, which means Barbudans as well can actually access that online funding process. I have donated on that. So there's where the money comes from in terms of supporting our legal claims.
Ms. Frank, somebody want to ask the question. You spoke about the Agriculture Department producing watermelons and thing. Does the council have any plans in place, or your department? Like, and there was a room somewhere close to complex
next to the basketball center,
right?
In terms of farmer markets.
Would you be revitalizing that, or looking for another place to sell the produce?
We were discussing it the other day, and we were trying to look for places that were accessible to the majority of the village. So it might be that the abattoir is moved, because you have to consider as well if there's any runoff or water, things like that. We don't want it to roll down into the lagoon to cause any problems there. What we're looking at is places that are accessible and are safe to have the building. So we've even talked about maybe having the market stall either there or by the lands office. We haven't made any definite decisions yet, but we are considering the best places for accessibility for the shoppers that we hope to attract.
I think this is just a humorous one. Ask Mr. Mustn't if the watermelon that he had was sweet. But I don't think that is.
That's a very good question. Yes.
Very sweet.
And every time I travel, right, and there's my good friend Brent George, is from Ministry of Agriculture in Antigua, and he can vouch and say, Barbie, the watermelon is the sweetest watermelon you can taste. Okay?
No, they just
Yes, sweet.
Ask Mr. Mustn't.
And it was doubly sweet because the labor over the past couple of years in terms of getting agriculture back up and running and so on, that was doubly sweet for me. Okay?
Just want to remind our listeners, if you're just joining us and you're watching us on a Barbuda channel, that is CTV channel 6, we are live here. This is a live. Today is the 12, right?
Today
no,
is the 4th.
The 4th. Oh,
I
boy.
saw it on the monitor. Today's the 4th. You're moving ahead.
Right. Today's the 4th, and also I'm looking at it and it's saying the 12th. So that's the.
You want an early Christmas?
Yeah. Today's the 4th. And so if you're watching this at this time, we are live on Facebook. We're also live on Barbuda channel YouTube. So if persons don't have, and they're in the diaspora and they don't have Facebook, they can get us on our YouTube channel, and we broadcast all these on all these platforms. And also we are an Abundant Life radio station, and we have a few other questions we're going to look at, but I'm trying to make some notes. Somebody was asking about something else that the revitalizing of Highland, something about Highland, and about the fence. What are presently being done there at Highland, and what's the difference? And would you be continuing? Would we see more coconut trees at the river? River Road, Sandground, right?
Yeah. The Highland was the first thing that was needed to revitalise. It was the fencing to protect any of the crops that were grown from the animals that roam up and down. So that took some time because it wasn't just the dirt, there was rocks and things to deal with as well. So Mr. Beezer and his team, they worked really hard on that, and they even borrowed staff from the surveying department so that it could get up and running. And then they carried out a test in terms of in a particular part of the ground. They tested the pumpkins and the watermelons to see if they would come there, and the crop has been very successful and abundant. and it is well fenced in, and there's a gate. So if anybody does go in there and trouble what's not theirs, it's definite theft, and they'll be dealt with if that happens. But remember, when you take from land like that, you're taking from the whole village. You're taking from everyone who's worked hard to get that going, and they are continuing to progress and develop more of the land and sow more crops. So ultimately, as I said before, we're moving for better food security for Barbuda. Now, the coconut plantation had other issues in the sense of preparing the sand and then getting the coconut seedlings in. Again, before some of them were even planted, they were stolen, and some that have been planted have been stolen as well. And there is some concern with the land connected to the plantation, because there is a lot of sand mining still going on behind there, which could easily impact the land, the coconut plantation itself. Speaking to the people who support the provision of coconut seedlings, they are currently struggling to provide us with any more seedlings, because they were supposed to come from Jamaica, and more recently they've had Hurricane Melissa come through, so we're not likely to get any seedlings from them in the near future. But the leader of Cardi that we're working with has asked that we continue to sort of pester them and ask, where are the seedlings, because we need them. So he apologised, but he said currently they're not available so easily.
Okay. Just to add a couple of things to the response given there. The question that was asked, especially for Highland Plantation, right? Just to emphasize, what we have on the production now is just about 3 acres. Highland Plantation is several magnitudes bigger than that. And so the intention going forward is to increase the size and eventually get back the entire area up at Highland, not necessarily for the Barbuda Council to operate, but for individual farmers who would wish to operate within that fence area. And that's why, as Ms. Frank said, water is very critical. Once we get that water supply up, then that is the long-term plan to increase production. The same for Sandgong. What we're doing now, presently fenced on, is just a nursery area, which is just about 1 acre or 2. The entire plantation is as much as over 300 acres, and we intend to get the entire area back up on the production. Okay.
The council need to put something in place to stop persons from defacing the something inside Indian cave. Persons are carving their names and other symbols. I guess you can call.
Yeah, I'm very much familiar with that. That happened a couple months ago.
Okay.
Right? It's a very serious issue, because archaeological sites, historical sites and so on, these things are protected by law. And when you have persons deliberately going and defacing artifacts, that particular incident happened a couple months ago, and it's something that ought not to happen. And whoever that person was, they need to understand the seriousness of what they're doing and the consequences that can ensure. We definitely will have to start addressing issues like that, because it's not just the Indian cave. Any one of our historical sites can be defaced and damaged in that way. Okay, so that's something that we need to address.
Okay, someone would.
I think that goes for Barbudans as well, because maybe the young don't see it as an important monument or archaeological building, but all Barbudans need to realise that all old properties, like the ginnery or even the brick water towers that are in and around Barbuda, they need to be preserved, because they're part of who we are. Because sadly, one was knocked down, the one that's in the daycare, that was knocked down. And speaking to one of the elders who worked in the farming side, he said that's a shame that was knocked down, because when you have times of drought, that's a place that can store water. It could be repaired and you store water and you use it for your animals or your crops. Things like that, buildings like that are valuable. They may look old and not important, but ultimately they served a purpose in the past and they can serve that purpose again.
Mr. Mussington, we know that the work on the main road council, we must commend them. But all Barbudans are not living on the main road, as I'm just paraphrasing the question. And sometimes it's very deplorable.
It's awful. Let me help you. Okay?
Well, I was trying, I'm not even using the words that was
we have
used.
to be frank in terms of that.
So
It's awful.
why can't the works department at times, ever so often, we have our own malls here, that is a long question, sometimes just go and try to make something look nice. People, a lot more vehicles are in Barbie, a lot more, and even if you want to use a bicycle or so. So what can be done in that regards?
We have to address the matter. The reality of the situation is that persons don't seem to understand that resources are limited. Sand and marl, for example. And you cannot just be selling them off and forgetting your own need for your people in terms of that. So we've had several discussions in terms of Barbuda Council as to how to address that, and we really understand, and we are pushing to get the equipment necessary to first of all get the material mal. We cannot continue to take down the hillside, so several proposals have been put on the table. So for example, up in Highland, where we have a water issue, then there's certain things that we can do in terms of excavating catchments and using that material to address our shortage of material for those side roads. But definitely more can be done. The holes are awful. There have been some work recently in terms of some of the major holes being filled in. Persons will admit that they're seeing certain things like that, and we're expecting to continue that. All right?
Okay, I think this is more of a right. And I'm not trying to throw Mr. Mussington under the bus, so I'll keep this whole thing serious. And they're commending this update. It is so informative, but how often we doing this, and this have nothing to do with Mr. Mussington only, because is this kind of thing is very busy schedule, but we have to really commit ourselves as we are doing here, because and that I believe comments from persons in the diaspora that they can get information. So we are committing ourselves. We have committed ourselves for once a year. No, sorry, once
a week. You mean? Okay.
No, once
2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks we were saying that we're going to do that. So it's the tiredness. And also, as a follow-up, when will we get the members of Barbuda Council to give, like each members of Barbuda Council come to give like an update in, like when they have the opening a council meeting to the people of Barbuda, right?
Okay.
Is that something and the question with this came in earlier, is it something you would as a teacher and the person in the education to really educate the public? So like the education person will come and share. As Mr. Mussington, as a former teacher, will that something that you promote now as a chairman of Barbuda Council?
Yes, definitely. And as you said, we have been working in terms of the Barbuda channel to address that. And we have actually sat down and, as you said, decided that these updates would be regular. One of the things we decided as well, it was not just going to be me alone coming. And that's why in today's program, we have the agriculture chair. And going forward, we would expect to have different members of Barbuda Council come and use this medium to provide updates. We also have the option of the village meeting, but the village meeting only addresses person on the ground unless we can get the mobile Facebook. And even so, that's a difficult thing in terms of But those are the things that we expect to continue going forward with. And Barbudans who are here on the ground, you should be very much aware that the Barbuda Local Government Act has in it that meetings of the Barbuda Council are open to the public. Okay?
It actually says all meetings.
All meetings.
Yeah,
only in certain special circumstances, when you are in a meeting, for example, and you may have a special issue, then you can revert to an informal session and clear the deck to deal with that. But by statute, meetings of the Barbuda Council are open to the general public.
Just want to remind you, we're just going in time, but and I sent to some of the folks, as soon as your question are in, what I try to do, I try to delete, so nobody know who it is, and so you don't have to be afraid. But it was back. We need road gangs like we had in the past, a group that patches up the potholes with Mal. Remember the late Rocky had a road gang who was keeping the potholes filled. Okay, so that's somebody just I guess.
Yeah, and he's quite right, because even though you may not be doing the same thing today in terms of barrow and shovel and so on, but the principle in terms of when you see something broken, you fix it immediately, and that principle we need to follow up on. Even with the concrete roads that we're laying down now, maintenance is going to be very important, and we need to have systems in place for regular maintenance, upkeep.
Sports. We had a meeting with the sports update, and how serious is the Barbuda Council to revitalize sports, this present administration to revitalize sports in Barbuda? Well, and as a follow-up, let me just ask this, because what I do, I try to get the question delete. A few years ago, the Barbuda Council hosted a youth award. We have not seen that. Is this another that Barbuda Council start and don't continue things? So somebody can come in here.
Okay. Well, let me just say briefly with regards to the sport, as you know, Evangelist, that your channel actually carried that village meeting. So that definitely has started. Mr. Warner, who is chair of sports, that process is starting in terms of that village meeting to sit and plan the way forward. So that's all I'll say on that. The other one in terms of
youth award, if something that you will continue
the youth committee, that award was done in previous years. It's something that should continue, because the national awards that they do have, we find that quite often there's not enough focus on Barbuda. Okay, so that's why it was initially brought into being, right. and I would agree with you and the person who bring in that question. That's something that should continue.
Okay, Mr. Mossington, did you have a chance to listen the Chone speech or the budget speech today? Can you weigh in on what is your thought?
That one put me on the spot. Okay. Let me put it this way, right? It's very frustrating and annoying that every single throne speech ad nauseum, and I can get very specific and quote certain things when it comes to the Barbuda section, is the same thing reported over and over. We are going to for that year, and every year you hear the same thing and nothing ever happens. So that's my reaction. The throne speech is just a formal thing, which from where I sit from Barbuda, it's all talk and nothing ever materializes.
Okay, just want to remind you, if you're just joining us, we are just bringing to you Barbuda Council update, and we have the cheerleader of Barbuda Council, and there was a question I think that I missed somewhere for you, but we'll get back to that. Your lands, okay, so you had to do with lands, right?
Agriculture, forestry.
Again, with lands, and it was totally put out there. Let me just make sure I didn't delete that one that came in. Had to do with lands, okay? Agriculture, right. So if you have just joined us, you can always send us, the numbers are right there, 775-1031, and there's some folks who just know my personal phone number and they're using this medium, but you can send 268-775-1031, and what we normally do, just delete as you send your question and we finish asking, we delete, so you can know that it's privacy for you, and just because you know Barbuda is very small. In regards to agriculture, and what you're doing here, other than watermelon, what are other plans to do other things here on the ground? Plant other things, and so what's the other plans going forward?
I believe there's test planting of peanuts. I don't know if they're the original peanuts that came from Barbuda.
Peanuts, actually.
But they're testing those in the soil that's up there, and there's ground crops, more pumpkin and things that people use here as part of their staple diet, sweet potato, any crops like that we know grow well here and we know people eat here, and they will be bought or sold so that they're not wasteful. So what we're looking at producing is crops for us as Barbudans to use on a regular basis.
A question was asked in regards to the council and the cedar tree point that case, is work still going on out there? Or was there an injunction, anything? And so there's an explanation. I think you did it. I don't want us to go back through that. But if you want to, because somebody just need explanation, what really is the council opposed to?
The case was brought literally questioning the validity of the project itself, because the project itself is based on building residences for the royal family. It also hinged on whether or not proper permits and so on were issued under the Physical Planning Act. So the whole legality of it, that is what was before the court. So the court heard the both sides, and then we are now waiting for a decision from the court. Okay? So we're saying essentially it's an illegal development.
Okay. So that's why the council is going for that. Yeah. Okay, we're just in a few minutes. We'll be thinking about wrapping up because our questions are getting a little bit. I think we have something else I saw here. Certain things are just things that have been asked, and I think you all answer. So I don't want to go back through that. Good night. Okay. Would you say the Barbuda Council, when you look at this year, 2025, how productive would you say of the operation of Barbuda Council 2025?
We have made strides, and anyone who look around will see that there has been definite improvement. Look at the capital projects that we have managed to run. Those things that we have managed to revitalize in terms of all our areas with respect that we're responsible for. Yes, and work is ongoing in terms of getting us to the point where we can operate at a much higher standard. It may look simple, but that concrete road that was built there without any assistance coming in anywhere, our own expertise underground, our own contractor company, we finance it ourselves. And what that shows is that we do not have to depend on outside to get major capital developments up and running. Okay, so you're going to see more of that. Ms. Frank, I don't know if she has.
I think that's the same. I can say it's the same in agriculture in the sense that the field team in particular are hardworking and experienced, and there are even people who no longer work in the field, but they're willing to offer advice and expertise in terms of what they know about growing crops as well, because they want to see Barbuda succeed. So the experience is there and the expertise is there, and we are moving forward.
I think, Mr. Mussington, I asked you this the last two times.
Let's still ask, because
I know
persons who might not have heard.
I know.
And so on.
Sanitary landfill. Sanitary landfill. What are the council doing? And also, still there are persons who somebody complained that, hey, sometimes you don't even know what in regards to the collection of garbage. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, that has been the subject of all of the health committee meetings that we have had over the past several weeks, and even with the budget session planning meeting that we had and so on, that always comes up because it's a serious issue. It needs to be addressed. There was an international what should I say, meeting several months ago that spoke about hazardous waste, right? And that's a concern nationally, and we had to literally put on the table the dire situations which we're facing here in Barbuda, because when it comes to hazardous waste, many ordinary persons may not take that into consideration, but what is going on in that landfill and so on, it is definitely a situation that needs to be addressed. So as I said in the past, it's something that we are working to correct, and several meetings we have had is basically looking at getting staff back in operation. The shredder that was there, it was actually vandalized and sabotaged. We've actually brought in technicians to replace certain vital parts. The actual building in which it is housed, we're working on getting that secured. So those are steps that we are taking in terms of getting to where we need to be with regards to the operations of that landfill. The bottom line is that you do have a lot of things going on. You do have a lot of contractors and whatever using in the area. So the landfill was designed for a certain number of persons pre-2017. What we're having now is not the same.
Has the council improved the safety at sea for our fishermen and start implementing, regulations? Tough, stricter regulations?
Yeah. I'll put it this way, the regulations were always there. It's whether or not persons adhere to it. Before you go out, venture out in Barbuda, in the sea, you have to license your boat. You have to get a personal license as well as a fisherman. Okay, those are things on the book. And in licensing your boat, there's certain pieces of equipment that must be on that vessel, safety equipment. What has lapsed since 2017 is that enforcement was not up and running. But we have since addressed the situation. We had acquired through the Caribbean Development Bank loan process. There were some monies that were there that needed to be allocated, and one of the things we did was to acquire personal locator beacons. Those are there to be commissioned. We have 22 of them. There are many more fishermen, definitely, but that 22 was basically to pilot and get in place that particular system. And what this personal locator beacon is, it's something that is registered to you personally with email address, contact numbers, anything. Should there be an event at sea, a mishap, that beacon goes off and it will immediately alert not only locally but internationally your location. So we have 22 of those that need to be commissioned. We are organizing right now to get a process of distribution which is objective, fair, and equitable. And what we're doing is that I've made a request from the necessary persons in charge to provide a list of fishermen who are registered. Mm-hmm. And when that list comes forward, we will have something like a raffle. Some impartial person will pick out 22 names, and those will be the first pilot persons who will be getting those pieces of equipment. And what we're expecting is that in future we'll make that something mandatory. They are a bit expensive to begin with, but then when you look at your life, right, no amount of money can compare with your life. So we would want to encourage that to be part of your normal equipment going out there.
Okay, just want to thank you very much there. What we're going to do is just going to just take a little break where you're just going to see the picture of Barbuda. Then we'll be right back as we're about bringing this to a close. Wow, well, it's great to be right back with you right here on our media platforms, in Abundant Life Radio, Barbuda Channel Facebook page, and our YouTube channel. We certainly thank those of you who have been feeding your question. We do apologize. Not going to say what happened, but we thank you very much. So if you're watching this on the 4th of December, it means that this was a live. If you're watching it after, because sometimes we're repeating this and you see question coming in, I have to say that was a live. But Mr. Mossington, I know, you know, somebody's going to ask this question, and you have to do it. Everybody think it's Christmas. Everybody want a little extra bonus. Tell us, would the council have anything in the pipeline to give an extra? Will you be paying Christmas workers for Christmas early? Would they be getting any bonus? I don't know if you can answer the question.
I'll answer, and definitely, just as everyone else, we were sitting the past few weeks before to get our budget ready for this week's presentation and so on, and that issue did come up. And essentially what we're saying is that we were hearing announcements being made by the central government that early bonus and double pay and all these sorts of things and so on. And we listened, but then we said among ourselves that, look, we cannot go by talk. And Barbuda Council definitely at this time, we're fortunate to be able to have paid the monthly wages and salaries, but there's a particular cutoff with regards to our financial position. We've had to spend a lot in terms of our capital infrastructure. So we were looking at what the central government was doing with regards to whether funds will be available, because, you know, we do get our monies out of the consolidated fund as those taxes are returned, and if the Treasury is having a hard time, we too will have a hard time. So the short answer to that is that based on what we're seeing and based on listening to the throne speech as well as the opening remarks in the budget debate, I don't think we're going to be getting that sort of bonus and stuff like that for Christmas. Okay, it's a hard enough task for us to be able to get our legitimate subventions out of the central, the consolidated fund, the Treasury. Okay, so there's where we are in terms of that.
Okay, again, you had asked about you had mentioned about the certificate for the land cheerleader of Barbuda Council. So is there the distribution of certificates for land? Is the process for that started? And how can someone, if you're not in Barbuda, apply for that certificate or get that certificate? What is the process?
If you have a piece of land, the first thing you need to do is register it with, there's a young lady in the office who takes down your information, and then the surveyors are sent out to measure it more accurately and say where it's actually positioned and which area of the island it's in. And then when they come back with that information, they share it with the head of department and the staff who operate the computers, and they will type it into a certificate. The certificate is then sent for authorization and authentication to the administration building, where the two senior members on the council sign, the chairperson and the secretary, and then it's returned to the lands department, and then you should receive a phone call from the same young lady who you spoke to initially to say that it's ready.
Okay, so I hope that made clear to you, Mr. Mossington, as we
let me add some.
No problem, go ahead.
Just to alert persons that the system was revamped in 2023, because previously, in terms of our registration and record keeping and so on, there were certain things that were not up to par. So from 2023, we made sure that what is happening now is legitimate and accurate. So a brand new registration system was put in place where you had to come in and provide your own details as well as government ID, because those things are very critical when you're dealing with certificates and lands and so on. So part of this process was to first of all ensure that every person who has a house and property in Codrington, those had to be re-registered. We're not complete in terms of that. We were expecting that all that would have been cleared already, but we're still having to re-register all those plots. Then persons who are coming now with fresh applications in land, that process would apply to them as well. So there's where we are. We have issued out quite a number of certificates, but we are not where we expect to be at this time. Okay.
How was and I'm just repeating the question. How was your?
And just before I go, someone asked, as to persons who are not living in Barbuda,
right.
at this time we're not able to do that process online or remotely. As you understand, physical IDs, proof of Barbudan ancestry, birth papers, and so on. These are physical documents that you have to present. We take copies of in terms of that. So it's a matter of you having to
come to Barbuda. Okay. How was your first year as chairman of the Barbuda Council, and will you be positioning yourself to be to stay in that position for the new year?
My year isn't up yet.
Okay. Well,
but I understand.
January, come January.
January, there's a reconstitution of Barbuda Council. So far, the work, as far as I'm concerned, has started. And the goal, as the previous person asked, how do we think we have been operating? And my answer was that, yes, we're making definite process. It's an ongoing process. So as the person sitting in the chairmanship position right now, there's a lot of unfinished work that needs to be done. Seriously, in terms of getting us where we need to be. And obviously, as the person sitting with that responsibility and putting plans in place and so on, you would wish to continue going down that road. But at the end of the day, it is the wishes of the people of Barbuda which we have to adhere to. So whichever eventuality, I am available to serve. I will serve in my full capacity, and I will give it my all wherever I am placed. But with that proviso, yes, there's a lot of work still to be done, and I would wish to continue.
So I think the answer is definitely yes.
Well, yes. That's a long yes, right?
So one of the things, with all this also, we don't want to folks to get carried away, but what we're going to do also, we promise them, and I certainly hope, Mr. Mussington, that we will continue. And as I said,
yes, definitely,
to folks, that we at Barbuda Channel are trying our utmost best to do as much as we can. And I had a meeting with someone today, and I said to them, we don't charge for a lot of things. This is something we do, but because of technology now, is like, not in my days when I can come and sit here, the persons now, people are being hired. I am hiring staff to carry out these functions. And so even though I will not be here, we will certainly be having this program, and we promised them already, and it's not Mr. Mussington's fault, neither my fault. Sometimes duty calls. But what I would hope, Mr. Mussington, if you're not here, and somebody asked also, there was a question coming that we need to do a program on the entire operation. And I guess what I was trying to ask them, it was like, what do you mean, like, because a lot of persons don't understand the operation of the Barbuda Council,
the local government,
and the local government, they don't understand it, and we have to plan a program where it is not going to be just how everything about people need to know. We have to leave this. So I hope that you will step up and let it be a part and have the right persons in place, and I will make sure I put star on that job to really select us. Even one of the program that we will do sometime next year, to really let persons know what is the Barbuda Council.
Even early January and so on, right?
I'm telling you, so I know we are busy, but we have to find time. You don't have to take a flight to do this. You don't have to do this. Is right here in Barbuda, and we have to learn to use what we have to educate our people here in Barbuda. And with that said, I can promise you, I have made this channel available. And as you said, we were commended when I was not here, and that's why I'm leaving things in place to do the sports. What do you call it? The sports meeting. It was live. Yes. The staff are doing their best, and what I was hoping for, if I was there, and I'm still training them to do it, that we could have taken calls live at the school and persons could have been. But again, you don't want to push them. But we are pleased to do this, and we're looking forward to working with you, the people of Barbuda. And this is our aim. We are improving. We are also, the next time we come here, we'll have a total new studio setup for things like this, where we can take better calls and these sort of things. So thank you all very much for taking the time. I'm giving both of you an opportunity now to look into the camera and share with your people from Barbuda. Encourage them. There's so many things that have been happening. This have been, I'm telling you, a challenging year for us in Barbuda.
Yes.
A challenging year. Some persons who started the year with us, they're not around. And what do we say? You all now are the persons who are elected in office. And I think this is going to be our last meeting until the new year. Can we safely say that?
We can.
Yeah, because Christmas is just around the corner.
Yes.
So I'll give you an opportunity to look into the camera, encourage Barbudans. Sometimes that's what they want, somebody to speak to them a little, encourage them, and assure them that, hey, we are here for you. So we're going to start with the chairperson of Agriculture, Lands and Forestry, as she closes up. And thank you very much for taking the time to be here.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking part tonight, whether you just listened or you sent in questions. For me, somebody stopped me and asked me, don't you get tired of fighting? I shouldn't just sit back and let it happen. And I said, in my soul, no, I can't stop fighting because I believe in what I'm fighting for. And whether that's going to court or just going to work, that's fighting. And I think every Barbudan has a responsibility, whether they choose to accept it or not, but you have a responsibility to fight for Barbuda. We live on a beautiful island. We have a blessed life, and it won't stay blessed, and the island won't stay ours if we don't fight. We have to fight, and that fighting could be calling in questions for us. It could be coming to the courthouse to support us, or it could be just turning up to work and doing your job. But you have to fight.
Mr. Boston?
Yes. Well, let me begin by saying to you, Evangelist Francois and your Barbuda Channel facility, I cannot say thank you much enough for the work that you've been doing with respect to giving us a voice to be able to speak to our constituents in terms of providing that update with regards to Barbuda Council. And just as you were alerting to earlier, I definitely will support and be here in terms of fulfilling our obligations with your help to be able to address the general public out there. Now, what can I say to us as Barbudans? Okay. First, let me say we are still here. That in itself is a blessing. Against all odds and what we went through 8 years ago, we are still here. And as Barbudans, you have stood up to the challenge in terms of continuing to thrive on this blessed island. And it's very important to take into consideration that you have elected us as leaders to represent you in terms of defending what you hold so dear. And I would say to you that we have achieved much. We have made progress with regards to the operations of the Barbuda Council. We have revamped many things and showed the way that we are capable of doing things. So going forward, the future looks bright. 2026 coming up. Stand firm in terms of defending this blessed island that you have here and our way of life. And there is always hope once we have life. So going forward, I am here. The rest of the members of Barbuda Council are here. You have a responsibility to hold us to our mandate. We are here on your behalf, and we must listen and report to you in terms of giving you the information as to what is going on. So all the best for the upcoming Christmas season. I want you to continue to have faith. As evangelists have said, things have changed. Many persons are not here with us anymore. All the more reason that those of us who remain, we have an obligation to ensure that we do those of our colleagues that have fallen justice in terms of continuing our work and to make sure that Barbuda is safeguarded for future generations. So once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And we are committed to come back and keeping you updated and keeping the fight going. So thank you.
Thank you all very much for this. Thank everyone, those who took the time out to send a WhatsApp, and I know many of you, concerned, you send your WhatsApp, you ask a question, and let me tell you, we had well over 20 persons who just, all they did was, thank you for this. And so they were not really questioning, they were just commending you all for the updates that came in, and they sent that via. So we're thankful if 20 persons just are saying thank you. That's a lot. Other than those who asked the question, I know some of you just sit back, relax, you just listen, and you got the information. So, and those who add clarity also, special thank you. You can join us again. I guess the next meeting like this will definitely be at the reconstitution, that's the right word, of the Barbuda Council in January. Have to be done in January.
In January,
at the end, because somebody was telling me that.
And maybe we can do something leading up to that.
No problem.
Okay.
Maybe that's true.
It's definitely the explanation of how
explanation of
works,
that's right. So when it actually happens, so this will literally be my for a long time being here hosting Mr. Mussington. You've been a good friend. I enjoy doing it. I'm not running from him. It's just that our dear friend, as long as she will be here, Star will be hosting these programs as duty calls in other area, and I want to keep it going. And so wishing you all the best, both of you all the best. It was great, and looking forward for 2026.
Yes,
for greater years for Barbuda. On behalf of my entire staff, those also who, and we also have a team of persons who will tell me, turn up the volume. Okay, I'm here, Clay, everything is working good. Thank you all for behind the scene workers, somebody manning the Facebook, YouTube, and also for Star George, who is now she's doing in a different role, all the mixing. Thank you very much. Normally I had to be doing everything by myself. So on behalf of all of us, you do have a great evening. Share. Go on our Facebook, go on the YouTube. You can, and also we'll be repeating this again. Have a wonderful day.